I caught on camera my wife cheated on me with my son's best friend. I've been married for 23 years to what I've always considered to be my ideal mate. She is breathtakingly gorgeous, educated, outgoing, and has a loving heart. My age is 57 and her is 55. Our personalities are different, yet they complement one another. I'm more introverted, logical, and cerebral. She is more outgoing, intuitive, and empathic. We like doing the same things and have many same interests. We've traveled extensively. We have 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy, with the youngest being an unexpected gift who is now 15 years old. My eldest is 20 and a sophomore at a college about 150 miles away. We did very well for ourselves. One of the little perks we enjoy as a family is going on extended vacation, at least once every 5 months. We try to visit places we haven't been before, mostly island and beachfront spots. We are fit, and all our children give us so much energy. Sometimes we invite family and friends. Even my son's best friend or my daughter's friend can tag along, and we pay for their flight and accommodation. Life was good. I had been married for 4 years but should not have been. I was too young, immature, and, in retrospect, emotionally codependent. My former wife had a personality condition, and the last several years with her were a nightmare. She asked for a divorce for reasons I didn't understand at the time. In retrospect, I believe she had an emotional or physical affair. I was stupid at the time, handled everything incorrectly, was sad and first upset, then something in me snapped and I realized I was simply done and wanted the torment to stop. Due of the money disagreement, the divorce was quick yet ugly. I was relieved when it was all done and have no regrets about the divorce. Job-wise, I was incredibly successful and held senior regional executive roles for a multinational firm at a very early age, but I had to leave my career owing to hearing loss due to a rare ailment. We're doing okay since we can live off of my money and continued investing activity. I've saved and invested a lot throughout the years. I have complete control over my time and focus on my own investments, but I miss working with people and managing a team of professionals to develop something greater professionally. Our marriage was going well, I thought. I suppose one moves on from the years of inexperienced love to a more mature and solid partnership. We have assistants, so we can go out in the evenings whenever we want, and we do a lot as a couple and as a family. My hearing loss has been difficult for us. It is irritating since I can no longer join in many group talks, which I miss, and I have grown more introverted as a result. Working alone hasn't helped either. I've been having problems with my hearing, which has made me seem more distant at times, which annoys both my wife and me. She always has to repeat things to me, and I get irritated more easily. It's just so frustrating when one's otherwise strong cognitive abilities are hampered by not being able to hear or participate in a group conversation, and I must have spent weeks, if not months, in such situations where I feel like a bystander due to my inability to participate. I have a shorter temper and am more impatient in conversation since I frequently miss things if talks are too lengthy, so I prefer to get to the point quickly so that I can hear everything, but I'm sure this might make me seem abrupt. So what brings me here? The notion began around 3 months ago and has haunted me to this day, but I was too quick and frightened to wait for additional information before approaching my wife. It's like a virus has infected me and gone from a whisper to a screamed question. Was my wife lying to me about her affair? I have a nagging sense that my wife is in love with my son's 21-year-old best friend. It all started 3 months before the beginning of August 2019 when we were arranging a vacation with our 3 children. My son was home from school, and it was a trip that we had planned a few months previously. My wife usually chooses our holiday places. She enjoys traveling, and I like seeing how enthusiastic she gets weeks before the departure dates. My wife and I have always maintained a busy social life, albeit with a limited circle of acquaintances, the majority of whom we both know. Almost all of them are married. Once or twice a week, my wife would go out to supper with her wife friends, in a restaurant or at someone's home. She often overflows her diary and has a difficult time refusing invitations. We normally invite family and friends and call them ahead of time to coordinate our schedule, so it shouldn't be too unusual when I overheard my wife on the phone while she was in the kitchen talking to someone about joining us for a trip. My hearing wasn't great, but I could tell she wasn't coordinating schedules but actively trying to convince this person to join us on a trip. She was saying it will be fun, just like before. We would go on a boat ride together, walk on the beach. It was almost as if she was seducing a kid with a treat, so I thought it was odd. When she noticed I was behind her, she was startled and nearly knocked the phone out of her hands. She grabbed her chest nearly as if I had caused her a heart attack, then pretended she wasn't surprised. I gave her a funny look, as if she had just gone away from the kitchen into the pantry, and she instantly returned to the kitchen, almost as if she had stepped into the pantry to collect herself. She asked me what I wanted to eat for dinner, but she had previously asked me that a few hours before, so it seemed unusual. I informed her what I wanted for supper again, then stepped out of the kitchen to join my kids in the living room, where they were watching television. A few minutes later, I'm sitting at the dining table with my wife and kids, eating dinner and talking about school and friends, etc., when my wife mentions that my son's friend, let's call him Jason, texted her saying that he would like to come with us on our upcoming vacation, which elicited an immediate reaction from my son, who responded that he never told Jason about our upcoming vacation because he was inviting his girlfriend. But he said that Jason texted him. My son said he wanted to ask us first before responding to his friend, but thanked my wife for bringing it up first. My son had already informed us that he was bringing his girlfriend on the trip, so I thought it was strange to invite his friend when he will be spending the majority of his time with his new girlfriend. Furthermore, I thought that my wife lied about the text message since I now assumed that Jason was the person she was conversing with on the phone, attempting to get him to join us on the vacation, but she was behaving as if Jason started it. Jason is a good kid. He and my son have been best friends since they were 14 years old when they met at a summer camp. Both of his parents are African Americans who live in a middle-class neighborhood in the inner city. They are both hard-working people who work for a delivering service, I won't say which one. My son and Jason are not in the same school district, but his parents pay a lot of money to have him in many after-school programs that my son was involved in. They also played basketball together, and he visits my home frequently to play video games with my son. I have met his mom a couple of times when she drops him off at my house or picks him up from practice, etc. My wife always volunteers to drop him off. She was fond of him. I didn't think it weird since Jason was a wonderful child who was also quite brilliant, and it was clear that he had a great future ahead of him. He completed high school before my kid and attended a different college. We have only seen him twice since then. So, knowing all of this background information, you can understand my wife lied because she was trying to bring Jason closer to us as before, because she is the type who likes to get involved with helping underprivileged kids, mentoring minorities, getting involved in a lot of progressive activisms and volunteering, and I assumed this was one of her things she does. Plus, I like him since he is much more mature for his age and can have an adult conversation just as well as my son, and he is terrific company, so knowing all of this, I put all of my suspicions aside. My wife went shopping with my 18-year-old daughter 3 days before the vacation getaway for some of the items that we would use on the trip. I remember that it was a long shopping trip, and she bought things for both my son and some presents for Jason. I didn't know about this until later, but even if I had, I wouldn't find it strange because she had always bought presents for him when he was younger. The next day, my son's girlfriend came in the morning, and Jason arrived later that evening. That evening was fantastic. We all went out to dinner. My wife sat next to me, and Jason sat next to my daughter. But I couldn't help but notice that my wife kept gazing at Jason the whole time we were there, even while I was talking to her. She was in such a wonderful mood, and I didn't understand why at the time. I simply went along with it because it made me glad to see everyone happy. When we came home that night, I went to bed, while my wife remained up late with the kids. I'm not sure, but I believe she went to bed at 3 a.m. the next day. As we were preparing for the trip, I noticed that I was missing my credit card. After we had parked our luggage for the trip, I searched everywhere but couldn't find it. As I was looking through my wife's luggage because she had used it the most, I noticed that she had bought one of those open-back bow bikinis, which I thought was inappropriate especially for the trip. The next day, we all boarded a business-class aircraft to our holiday destination, Carlisle Bay, which was a stunning opulent Caribbean beach and spa resort tucked on the southern coast of the island of Antigua. It is a piece of heaven, one of the most stunning Antigua resorts, overlooking a magnificent white sand beach and quiet blue seas. On the first day, I spent the majority of my time relaxing on the beach, reading investment articles and Wall Street Journal, etc., while my family went scuba diving. In the evening, my wife went out to a disco bar with my son, his girlfriend, and Jason, while I went to a restaurant with my daughter. My wife and others arrived home around 3 hours after me and my daughter returned. I saw she was a bit tipsy. She woke me up simply to have sex when she returned, and I felt something must have really turned her on since we had one of the nicest sex sessions in many months. The next day, I spent most of my time on the beach with my wife, and in the evening she told me she was going to a restaurant with my daughter, son, his girlfriend, and Jason. But around 10 a.m. when my son returned with his girlfriend, and his sister, my wife, and Jason were nowhere to be found, I asked where my wife was, and they said she went out with Jason on some kind of local wildlife tour. But the same night, I woke up around 1 a.m., and I didn't know how to react at the time. I just stared at both of them for a second. It was awkward, very awkward. They had clearly separated as soon as they heard the door open. He was only wearing shorts, no t-shirt, which shouldn't be too unusual given that our suite is literally in the ocean. But I could clearly make out an erection that he was trying to hide. I returned to my bedroom while my wife trailed after me, acting as if nothing was wrong. I could tell she was high on Zex and was attempting to fool me into thinking they were simply watching TV. I didn't say anything that night, partly because I was silent, partly because I was miserable and lonely, and partly because I felt like I was fading like a ghost, slowly being disregarded by my wife and family due to my hearing loss and betrayal. I was humiliated and embarrassed. I didn't get much sleep that night, and the next day I knew I had no evidence but everything from the moment I overheard her on the phone convincing Jason to come with us on vacation, to the moment I almost caught them having sex all came together. And at that moment I knew my wife was having sex with my son's friend all came together. And at that moment I knew my wife was having sex with my son's friend. I had no direct proof, just indirect evidence. But it disturbed me so much that I felt compelled to approach my wife that morning. I brought her into the room and informed her that I had discovered her having sex with Jason, that she needed to come clean, and that I wanted to know how long it had been going on. Her reaction was out of character for her and very strange. She denied everything and was very upset that I would even consider such a thing. She called me every name in the book, including a deaf and a racist, and it worked, because she won the argument. I had no evidence, and there was nothing I could do because I had no solid proof. She said that I was losing not only my hearing but also my senses. She was very adamant and convincing. She could have fooled anyone. At the end of the day, I was the one apologizing. I felt like I should have waited to gather more evidence before confronting her. I let my emotion get the best of me. I am normally very logical and rational, but my emotion got the best of me. I should have slept on it to come up with a plan because I should have known she would deny it. The remainder of my trip was a disaster. My wife treated me like a disease and was virtually repulsed by me. I felt like I'd lost some respect for her, but I knew what I was feeling. I knew she was gaslighting me. I knew she was having sex with Jason on the sofa, but I couldn't prove it. Thanks for staying till the end of this video. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to express your opinion on the comment section. Stay tuned for the update.